Have you ever felt insignificant? As if you were just one among many without power, without a voice, without a choice? On the chessboard of life, who truly defines the game? The kings and queens, or the silent pawns that move forward one step at a time? Confucius wrote, "It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you don't stop." And perhaps in that steadfastness lies the very essence of the pawn in chess. It is the smallest, the most limited, often expendable. But what few realize is that it holds one of the greatest powers in the game: transformation. If it is patient, if it advances with strategy and perseverance, it can become any piece, even a queen, the most powerful on the board. But how many pawns actually make it? How many are sacrificed along the way, used merely as shields to protect pieces deemed more valuable? This dilemma of the pawn is not just a matter of the game, it's a question of life. We live in a world that idolizes the powerful, those with influence, those who control the game. But what truly makes a difference isn't so much those already at the top, but those who climb, one step at a time, resisting, learning, and moving forward. If chess is a metaphor for life, then the pawn is a lesson in patience, perseverance, and resilience. It teaches us that every small step matters, that every choice, however tiny, can alter our fate. But do we truly recognize our own worth? Or are we trapped in the belief that we're just disposable pieces on someone else's chessboard? In this video, we will explore the psychology of the pawn, understand its journey, and discover how this small piece holds the greatest lessons in strategy, sacrifice, and transformation. At first glance, the pawn seems like the least important piece in chess. It moves only forward, one square at a time, and its ability to capture is limited. It doesn't leap like the knight, sweep across diagonals like the bishop, or command entire files like the rook. If chess is a game of strategy, power, and intelligence, why would anyone pay attention to a pawn? But that's where the mistake lies. As Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, all warfare is based on deception. The pawn deceives. It seems insignificant, but it can decide an entire game. At the start, pawns form the front line, a true army protecting the more valuable pieces. They're the first to step onto the battlefield, paving the way for the strategic moves to come. And when used well, they can be the key to victory. But there's a crucial detail: a pawn can never move backward. Its movement is irreversible. It can hesitate, it can wait, but once it advances, there's no turning back. This makes it a piece that demands strategy because an impulsive move can doom it to capture. It's a powerful metaphor for life. How often do we move forward without knowing what lies ahead? How often do we feel like we have few options, stuck on a path where every choice feels final? The pawn teaches us that while we can't go back, we can move forward intelligently, observing every detail of the board. The concept of the passed pawn is a perfect example. In chess, a passed pawn is one with no obstacles ahead, no enemy in its path to stop it from reaching transformation. This seemingly fragile pawn becomes the most dangerous piece in the game because it can be promoted to a queen and completely turn the tide. Nelson Mandela, a symbol of perseverance, said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." That's exactly the truth about the pawn. It may seem weak at first, it may be underestimated, but if it's patient, if it's supported by the right moves around it, it can become the most powerful piece on the board. This is mirrored in great chess players. Anatoly Karpov, a world champion, was a master of subtlety. He knew how to turn pawns into a formidable weapon. He didn't see them as disposable, but as the foundation of his strategy. In one of his famous games, Karpov used a simple pawn advance to completely unbalance his opponent's position and force a mistake. It's the same in life. We often dismiss small progress, overlook the power of little decisions, but these are what shape our destiny. Small actions build up. Small changes turn into silent revolutions. The pawn, then, isn't the weakest, it's the most strategic. It symbolizes that no matter where you start, what matters is how you move forward. It teaches us that you don't need to be grand to be decisive. You just need patience, vision, and the courage to keep going. The pawn can't move backward. It doesn't have the freedom of other pieces. It can't leap over obstacles or change direction unpredictably. Its path is rigid, a constant march forward with no guarantee of success. And yet, it advances. Many pawns are sacrificed during a game, left behind, captured without hesitation, offered up as mere tools to let other pieces gain ground on the board. In chess, as in life, those at the bottom are often the first to fall. This idea echoes the words of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. The pawn understands this. It can't change the game, but it can transform itself. The true power of the pawn lies in its adaptability. If it reaches the final rank of the board, it can be promoted to any piece, most often a queen, the most powerful in the game. This means that despite its initial limitations, the pawn carries hidden potential. But how many actually get there? Most don't. Many are sacrificed along the way. Others stall for lack of strategy. Some hesitate too long and miss their chance. Even those that advance face resistance. The path to promotion is never easy. The opponent always seeks to block, capture, or stop it. This journey mirrors that of great figures who started with little and achieved greatness. Think of Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, facing countless obstacles, yet through determination, she transformed her life and influenced millions. In chess, there's a concept called the isolated pawn. It's a pawn with no other pawns beside it to protect it. Without support, it becomes vulnerable, often an easy target. This applies to life too. When we're alone, without backing, we're more fragile. Our chances of success grow when we build connections, when we have a support network, when we're part of something bigger. On the flip side, sometimes the pawn must sacrifice itself. Many games are won because a pawn was used strategically to distract the opponent, clear a path for another piece, or disrupt the balance of the board. The sacrifice may seem like a loss in the moment, but it can be the detail that secures victory. This happens in all areas of life. To achieve a greater goal, we sometimes have to let go of something lesser. An entrepreneur might have to leave a stable job. A student might sacrifice nights out to pass exams. Growth demands choices, and the pawn understands this better than anyone. Lao Tzu wrote, "Do the difficult things while they are still easy." The pawn, fragile and vulnerable, could give in to discouragement, but it doesn't. It moves forward. Every step, however small it seems, brings it closer to transformation. On the chessboard of life, many believe you need to start as a king or queen to win. But the truth is, the greatest victors were once pawns. The secret lies in resilience, sacrifice, and the ability to overcome challenges. The pawn moves one square at a time, slowly, predictably, quietly. In a game where some pieces sweep across the board in a single move, its path seems trivial. But if you look closely, it holds a powerful secret: steady progress. Leonardo da Vinci said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." And the pawn is the perfect example. It doesn't impress with grandeur, but with consistency. It doesn't make spectacular plays, but advances without hesitation. In chess, as in life, what often leads to victory isn't instant brilliance, but the disciplined repetition of small steps. Most people's mistake is believing big changes must be dramatic. They want instant results, quick fixes, overnight transformations. But reality is different. Success rarely comes from a single stroke of genius. It's built through small decisions, daily choices, slow but steady steps. The pawn follows this logic. Each advance may seem minor, but over time, it can determine the game's outcome. In chess, there's a concept called positional strategy. It teaches that a player shouldn't seek an immediate advantage, but rather build a solid position through small adjustments throughout the game. Grandmasters like Tigran Petrosian mastered this. Instead of attacking directly, they subtly shifted their pieces until suddenly victory became inevitable. That's how life works too. Someone who writes a page a day might see no change in a week, but in a year, they'll have a book. Someone who saves small amounts might not notice a difference right away, but over years, they'll achieve financial stability. Silent progress is the most powerful because it goes unnoticed until it's undeniable. Another key lesson from the pawn is patience. It teaches us that we don't always need to act impulsively. Sometimes the best move is to wait. In chess, an experienced player might leave a pawn still for several turns, waiting for the right moment to advance. A hasty move can lead to defeat. This applies to life too. Often we want quick results, to move before it's time, but that can leave us vulnerable. A project needs time to mature. A skill needs practice to refine. Our dreams demand patience to be built soundly. The philosopher Seneca said, "Life is long enough if you know how to use it." The pawn follows this philosophy. It knows it can't rush, but it also knows that if it keeps moving, it will reach the end of the board. And when it does, everything changes. The most insignificant becomes the most powerful. The one ignored at the start now dictates the game. But this only happens because, from the beginning, the pawn understood something essential. True power lies not in speed, but in consistency. The world belongs to those who grasp the pawn's logic, not those chasing easy shortcuts or waiting for a stroke of luck, but those who advance step by step, never giving up. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Strength does not come from physical capacity, but from an indomitable will." The problem is, many think this strength must show through grand, immediate, revolutionary acts. But the reality is different. All great transformations begin with small, often invisible steps. What can we take from this? How can we apply the pawn's mindset to our daily lives? First, we must understand that progress isn't always visible. Imagine someone who decides to walk every day. The first week, nothing changes. The second, still nothing. But over time, their stamina improves. It's the same with any habit: learning a language, pursuing a passion, saving money. At first, it feels like nothing's happening. But in the long run, small steps pile up and create a massive impact. Another key concept is the pawn's promotion. In chess, a pawn that crosses the board can become any piece it chooses: a queen, a rook, a knight. This means that no matter where you start, what matters is where you're going. We all have the power to reinvent ourselves, to turn weaknesses into strengths, as long as we have the patience and discipline to keep moving forward. But one critical detail remains: no pawn reaches its goal alone. In the game, an isolated pawn has little chance of success. It needs the protection of other pieces to advance. And in life, it's the same. No one grows alone. We need mentors, friends, a community. Support from others can be the difference between being captured along the way or reaching the other side of the board. This brings us to a final lesson from the pawn: the importance of strategic sacrifice. In chess, many pawns are sacrificed to open the way for a bigger attack. In life, we sometimes have to give up something to achieve a greater goal. Maybe it's sacrificing free time to learn a new skill, or letting go of distractions to focus on a dream. The key is understanding that not every loss is a failure. Often, it's a vital step toward victory. Writer Paulo Coelho wrote, "There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve: the fear of failure." The pawn teaches us exactly this. It faces obstacles with every move but never retreats. It knows that every challenge overcome brings it closer to its goal. The truth is, we're all pawns at some point in our lives. We start at the bottom with few resources, no guarantees. But that doesn't mean we have to settle for that position. A pawn that understands its own value and advances with strategy can reach the top. So the next time you feel like you're moving too slowly, that your achievements are too modest to matter, remember the pawn. It proves that in life, as in chess, it's not the strongest at the start who wins, but the one who keeps going to the end. And are you ready to take the next step? If you've made it this far, congratulations. That means something in this story resonated with you. Maybe because, deep down, we've all felt like pawns at some point. Small, limited, underestimated. But now you know. No matter how we begin, what matters is how we move forward. So tell me in the comments, what's the biggest lesson you've taken from this video? I can't wait to read your responses. And since you're here, don't forget to like the video. Trust me, it helps a ton in keeping content like this coming. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. It's part of the strategy. Every video here is another step in your growth. Oh, and before you go, 2 videos are popping up on the screen right now. I could tell you what they're about, but I'd rather keep the mystery alive. Pick one and find out. It might be just what you need right now. The game goes on, and the next move is yours.